Hey, what's up, Unbroken Nation? You talked about in your own journey this aspect of recognizing a decade in that it wasn't until you started doing this inner child work that you started to create the space to be able to move into something healthy and safe and secure. What's the correlation there?
With inner child healing?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, gosh. I have a lot of thoughts on this topic. Some people find it strange coming from me. So I'm a registered psychotherapist, eventually became a coach. And I have honestly found in a lot of my own training as a mental health practitioner, there's been so much emphasis on the CBD, CBT, not CBD, sorry. Though I love that as well, CBT, and these 8-week programs and these 2-week, 2-session programs. I've done it all, Michael, and nothing has hit me the way it did in those innermost deeper layers as looking at attachment and inner child work. That's just been my honest experience. I would go to certain sessions and they would say, "Oh, you just have anxiety, right? Let's give you this medication to treat your anxiety. Then you'll be fine in relationships." And in other types of modalities, I would go to dating gurus and learn about how to dress properly on dates, right? That was the fucking problem, that I wasn't wearing a dress. And that was the reason why I was attracting the wrong people, right? And everything was just so surface layer. This was why I was so drawn to your work as well, Michael, because you really get it that it has everything to do with the way we are wired, and we are wired in our childhood. It's crazy that I didn't even learn about that in my therapy school. But when I first went to my first inner child coach, it was actually a guy, believe it or not. And we actually had nothing in common. He was like a 40 something white man. He was like a skateboard champion like in Canada. So random. We had nothing in common other than the fact that he had a very messed up childhood and he was now in a happy relationship. Saw those two things, put it together. I thought, that's where I was. You're where I want to be. Like, let's work together. And he helped me look at the way that my parents raised me to be and how I literally took that blueprint and just extrapolated that onto all of these people I was dating. And it was like, oh my God, it was like breakthrough after breakthrough of seeing all these connections, but also things that I could actually do differently by reparenting myself, giving myself the needs that weren't met in me as a kid and not looking towards other people to fill that cup for me. But it was almost like unlocking this superpower. Oh, wow, I can actually fill my own cup. It was like tapping into this inner reservoir that I didn't even know was there. And I just ended up feeling so abundant and so full. And when I parted ways with my coach 2 years later, I just felt like a totally different person. And I don't think I would have been able to get there if I hadn't gone into those deeper layers of the inner child work.
Yeah. And it's a scary place. And I think people don't understand how much you will discover about yourself. And ultimately, when I wrote my second book, Eight Steps to Healing Your Inner Child,
Mm,
it's pretty simple. It's a pretty foundationally straightforward book. It's not as in depth as some of the other things I've written, but it's just if you're willing to look at these things, like just nakedly, unabashedly,
mhm.
honestly, you're going to find some shit out about yourself. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And you're gonna end up in this place where you're like, "Fuck, this is who I am," not necessarily only because of my wiring, my programming. Sometimes it's grooming and enmeshment, but also it's the choices that you're making. It's the decisions that you make. And unfortunately, there's a reconciliation that you're going to have with the truth of who you are and understanding radical responsibility in terms of making better decisions. And I think one of the difficult things for me was there's a space in which you have to evaluate the value that you have and what you are worth. And there's a
Right.
conversation about worthiness here. And I attribute this to the same as being an entrepreneur or a business owner, or even just working in a career, like getting paid what you're worth. There are people who just undervalue themselves so drastically. And I'm like, fuck that. Get what you're worth in relationships, in career, in life, everything because you can and you deserve it. But like, I can't force feed that to you. You
Right.
have to be able to create that in yourself. And more so, you have to be able to, and this is my thought about it. continuously do incredibly uncomfortable things to build the confidence to own that. How much of that feels true in this journey for you?
Oh my gosh, 100%. Right? It's almost like with fitness coaching, I can't do your push-ups for you. You really do have to be at a point where you are ready to face the music because as beautiful as this healing journey is, it can be quite painful. I don't think we can sugarcoat it and say, oh, it's all just going to be rainbows and fairies and butterflies. But it really is the shadow work, right? Where you are taking the most honest, good, hard look at yourself and the parts of you that feel really icky and shameful and uncomfortable. And it's bringing all of that out on the table and looking at it and being okay with it. Takes a lot of courage for sure. And it can take some people a little bit of time before they're ready to get to that place, but only you can truly acknowledge when you are ready, right? There's never going to be an external time where all the lights are green at the same time. But I believe that readiness is an internal process and it's an internal choice that you are going to make this happen, not dictated by everything around you. So I fully believe that.